Preparing to sing world premiere recordings is something especially wonderful. The feeling after 250 years of how the music sounds for the first time and how it comes alive is simply indescribable. Naturally, that means an intensive study of each piece accompanied by many considerations. What did the composer mean at that time? And how can or would I like to interpret that today? But before I can begin with those questions, there are two other main factors, namely source research and music editing. Revival of this kind means teamwork. I have the greatest luck in having two colleagues at my side, Lauter and Preiser, who share the same fascination as I for the time of the epoch break between the Baroque and classical periods. This time is a pivotal moment in the history of music. Each of us has their own approach and perspective, but we share the same passion. That links us together. The arias we have chosen for the recordings are taken from the libretto of Demofoonte. This was written in 1733 by Pietro Metastasio on the occasion of the name day of Emperor Karl VI at his court in Vienna. The central philosophical message of the libretto is groundbreaking and paved the way for the whole of the 18th century, the century of enlightenment, and goes hand in hand with Kant's contemporary translation of Sapere Aude, Dare to be wise. Especially well captured musically in this aspect are the scores of the second half of the 18th century. The first composers who used Metastasio's libretto still used Baroque stereotypes as a basis to tell the story as clearly as possible. But from about 1750, the themes of man and his inner conflict pushed ever stronger center stage. When one begins searching, one becomes aware that there are many pieces that still exist that no one knows today. It is wonderful what music history has to offer us in terms of challenges and possibilities. But you have to imagine, just because a piece of music comes from this period of the 18th century and was successful and well loved then, does not mean that it's still exciting to our modern ears. A lot of music is of its time and passes away. But some works are of such timeless beauty and depth that one is allowed to talk of forgotten treasures. And exactly these forgotten treasures, to rediscover and bring the music to life again, was a deep wish of mine. I already knew Charlotte Schäfer's voice very well from a past project, and I know her virtuoso qualities as a coloratura soprano. With this in mind, while I was researching through the original pieces, I was able to pick the arias that were particularly suitable for her voice and make a pre-selection to present to Charlotte and Preiser. We have read through approximately 300 arias. That means we played them and sung them through entirely one after another. And in the end, we had a very long chart laid right across the living room floor where alongside every single aria, we wrote down our thoughts and impressions. And after half a year, we had a short list of about 80 arias. And in the end, it was only 7 pieces that we have immortalized on our CD. And to round it off, we have included a Mozart concert aria. After the initial enthusiasm of finding and deciding the original scores, there followed a period of rather mundane work. The old manuscripts had to be transcribed into a good readable form. And it's not only just about writing the notes out clearly for the musicians. There are countless questions to answer. Ambiguities in the manuscript, copyists' mistakes, and so on. And exactly stylistic knowledge just isn't enough. You need to have practical experience, an understanding for the instruments, for the art of playing the instruments, and to recognize common mistakes that could have occurred when the notes were copied at the time. When all this work is completed and the freshly printed pages of notes brought to the bookbinders, in order to have a beautiful book to hold in your hands at the end, that really is a very special, beautiful feeling. The most rewarding experience for me was the encounter with Giuseppe Sarti's interpretive scoring of Demofoonte. The moment when Dolci resolves to sacrifice herself and die had inspired Sarti to write such an extensive recitative orchestration. That clearly influenced following orchestra-accompanied recitatives, such as Mozart's later operas bear witness. The score from the quill of Giuseppe Sarti was also a great discovery for me. I found the manuscript in the Royal Library of Copenhagen, and it displayed not only a beautiful grand aesthetic, but also especially the music within, which immediately began to play in my head, and I asked myself, how is it possible that such music could have been forgotten and had to fall into limbo like Sleeping Beauty? The preoccupation with the music of this period has less of a museum-like aspect for me. Rather more is the conviction that the compositions of this era could have a great deal to say to us today. The music was created during a period of radical change. It is exciting and requires new forms of expression, and that's the thing of special interest to me as interpreter and editor, to show which doors open themselves for following generations of composers. We decided on the title Dolci affetti. It's a quote, and it's from Timante, the Crown Prince from our opera. Timante has a relationship, an unlicensed marriage, with a commoner, which creates a massive conflict with the king, his father. And in the monologue he recites Timante, says, "I dolci affetti," the sensitive feelings he feels for his wife and his child, are of much greater value to him than the immense wealth and unlimited power that he has bestowed upon him as Crown Prince. And precisely because of that, he chose to fight for personal individual freedom against the absolute rule of law of the state. Dolci affetti is a project from the heart, and we hope it touches many people.